Hi, welcome to NicheCraft. My name is Cassie and I'm your host, and I thought it might be fun to flip through this book together today. I received this in the mail actually a few weeks ago, but this book I got from Amazon. I am not affiliated with Amazon. I don't have any kind of referral links or anything, but I will put a link to this book on Amazon in my description. Just know I do not make any money off of that. I am not eligible for that program because I live in Arkansas. Anyway, this book promises a lot because it's called the Ultimate Crochet Bible. So, you know, that sounds like this is going to have a lot of stuff in it. We'll see what it actually does have in it. It says a complete reference with step-by-step techniques, and it's by Jane Crowfoot. All right. So I am going to go ahead and begin. Now I am going to do a flip through, which means that I'm going to just show you a few pages. I'm not going to show you every page. I don't want to get into any kind of copyright issues or anything, but this should at least give you an idea of what to expect if you do purchase this book. I did also want to say I got the paperback version, which is very sturdy. I think it's important to mention that. Okay. All right. So we have the contents. We have the introduction, getting started, crochet basics, texture and lace stitches, thread crochet, Tunisian and interlock crochet, working with color, beads and sequins, crochet edgings, embellishments, professional finishing techniques, and then we've got glossary, resources, index, and an acknowledgement part. And here on this page we have some amigurumi. It's cute. All right, so one thing that I did notice, and we've got some really stunning pictures here. Some of these pictures themselves could be inspiration for those of you who are more advanced or who can kind of look at something and see how it's made and then kind of copy it. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I noticed right before I started flipping through this that this book has a really cool way of helping people know which section to access. Okay, if you see here, we've got colored tabs, and I think that they correspond to each section of the book. We'll see. But under getting started, this is the color yellow, and if we go to the side here, we can see that there's a little yellow tab right there. So I imagine that's going to be all about getting started. So we have choosing a hook. All right. Oh, and they're even talking about Japanese hooks versus wooden and bamboo hooks, double-ended hooks, novelty hooks, all of that kind of stuff. Wow. Other kinds of equipment. So this is a very, very beginner based book, definitely. Man, it's telling you everything you need to know about different kinds of yarns and ply, which is something that a lot of people who craft don't know. Not that you need to know it, but knowing this can kind of help you figure out which yarn you need for your project. So we're talking about animal origin, plant origin, linen, synthetic and man-made. We've got different ply and what it means. That would be basically how thick it is. Super fine, fine, light, medium, bulky, super bulky, and type of yarn and category basically, and the gauge and all of that kind of stuff. And then she's got a scale here. So as you can see, we've got a lot of information right now. They show you how to read a band. Okay, they even have a whole book or a whole page dedicated to how to care for your yarn. You know, there's going to be these symbols typically are on the yarn band, and it tells you how to care for your yarn. And it's talking about how to substitute, and then this goes into reading abbreviations and symbol charts. I personally am not very good at reading symbol charts, just so you know. So here's some crochet basics. Yeah, and just like I thought, we have this section in this colored green right here. All right, so we're back. We're on the basics. So it looks like, yeah, we're gonna talk about holding the hook, the direction of the hook, how to work a foundation chain, make a slip knot. Looks like these, it looks like these pictures are very easy to read. You know, and they even talk about the difference between US terms and UK terms, which, you know, that's definitely a plus. If this particular book is not, doesn't cover a whole lot of things, they are very, very thorough in covering what they do cover. This is talking about extended stitches, which I have some, tutorials on that. How to measure a block. Okay, interesting. Recognizing the reverse and front side of the work. You know, these are all very, these are very important things. Also, about joining. Joining new yarns is an important thing to know. Working in the round, the magic loop, which I think it is magic because I've actually never been able to do it very well. It's like I make a magic loop like one for every 3 times I try. So it's magic to me because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Stitch directories, different kinds of shapes. It's hard for me to see this page that says tubular crochet without like going back to the early 90s and thinking like, oh man, that's so tubular. I don't even know what that meant at the time. Like, what? It's like an inner tube? Is that what that means? I don't even know. Talking about amigurumis and how you have to make their heads, their bodies, and arms and legs and tails and ears. Yeah, this is definitely, here's that picture again. You know, do notice that. So we've got some pictures, but some of them show up more than once. I'm not certain if I like that. Oh well, texture and lace stitches. So again, we've got a whole bunch of orange pages here, and that tab corresponds to it. I'm just going to flip through really quick. We've got ridge stitches, raised stitches, spikes. Spikes kind of look like this. So we've got some of that stuff. We've got some cabling, which is something I have not covered on my channel yet. Puff stitches and bobbles. That's basically just when you make a bunch of stitches all at once and it turns into like this little puff. It looks like a little bit like popcorn. In fact, there's even a term for popcorn stitches. And then just kind of putting them all together in different ways. Oh, these loop stitches. When I look at loop stitches, I always think, man, that looks so like it could get tangled up so easily. But I do know that there's definitely a place for that. Some chevron stitches. Just some more stitch directories here. Mesh stitches. Shell and V. Shell and fan stitches, sorry. Trellis stitches. So yeah, I mean, it's going through some of the basics, but again, it's just the basics. But what they are going through, very, very detailed on each thing. So now they're going to be talking about filet crochet. I have not covered that on my channel yet, but I will eventually. So it's just, this is how to read a traditional filet crochet chart, and basically how to read it, and then how to make whatever the design is. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically where you take a pattern and you make a grid, and then you have a specific maybe shape or motif like this right here where you want to make it inside the grid, and so you crochet like a space for every space on that, and then you fill it in with stitches for every darkened space on that, and then you end up making these different shapes. And it's not that hard, but you know, it is definitely something to learn. Now this is they're calling this Irish crochet. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. This is when you crochet around another loop. You crochet a circle around a loop of another. It's well, they're explaining it really well. Obviously better than I can. But yeah, it's definitely one way to crochet. So we even have these mesh looks, or these open work looks is really what I should call that. So now we have Tunisian and interlock crochet. So this is basically crochet that looks a lot like knitting. And I have not ventured much into this Tunisian crochet because I already know how to knit. So I don't really have much of a place for it. Although I have heard that there are Tunisian crochet techniques that you can't use in knitting. So I'd like to learn that, but I have so many projects right now that I'd like to at least finish those first. Working with color, let's see how we, okay, so first off they talk about skin tone, and that's so important. A lot of people don't know if their skin tone is warm, cold, or neutral. And skin tone is going to affect the way different colors show up on you, right? So for example, I'm a neutral tone, but I lean a little warm, okay? So the colors that are going to show up best on me are going to be autumnal colors and jewel tones. And then for somebody who leans more cool, then all of those cooler tones like well, here, if I look at this here, I can say, you know, all of these cooler tones right here are going to look really good. And for a warm tone person, all of these colors are going to look very good. So basically, I think that that's an important thing. It looks like it does talk about a little bit of that kind of color theory. And yeah, and so it's basically talking about how to blend colors and what colors look the best. You know, I'm not really actually that impressed with this section. It's not that long. This is another form of filet crochet where instead of, you know, filling it in for the shape, you just use different colors, just so you know what they're showing there. And this is very much like mosaic crochet. So just kind of want to throw that in too. In other words, you can take this pattern and you can translate it to mosaic crochet, and you can take any mosaic crochet pattern and translate it to this, but it's more, I think it's better personally to just do it one way or the other, you know, but that's just me. So here's beads and sequins. I have not ventured very far into the beads and sequins bit. Never really had much of a reason to, basically. But this does talk about working with beads and sequins, basically how you can kind of embellish different things with the beads and how to do that, I see. I think that this seems like it's a very thorough guide, or a thorough enough guide that it would teach me something. Then we're talking about creating edges. Looks like I skipped this teal green. So yeah, and we're talking about edges. I think there's a good time and place for edges. It would be kind of like I'm looking at this one, and I don't mean to be very critical of the book. I'm just saying that when I look at this edge, it's like, well, I would want to know how to make this fan stitch as well, or the shell stitch, depending on how you define them. Do they have that stitch as well in the book? You know, that's one of the things that I would look for. And this saying that this is a ultimate crochet Bible, I would imagine that they'd have a whole lot more stitches and less just basically tutorials on every single different way one can crochet. Oh, how nice. They've got braids too. Braiding and cabling can overlap each other, but there are certain things you can only do with cabling and certain things you can only do with braiding. And I like that there's a section in braids. That's nice. As you can see, I really didn't look through this before making this video. I wanted this to be, I wanted us to look through it together. So obviously I didn't know that that was going to be coming out. Oh, I like how it shows you how to make tassels. Even if I followed this, I probably still wouldn't be able to make a very good tassel, but at least I'd have a chance if I followed this. So, oh, and here's one that you can even crochet. That's nice. Having little loose strings around isn't really good when you have some animals in your house, because I always worry that my pets are going to somehow ingest them, and I just don't want that to happen. So in options where tassels even would look good, or fringe, you know, I tend to just leave it off. Okay, so here's some really interesting, elegant edging too. That's really pretty. That one's really pretty. So now we have some embellishments. I'm not quite certain what the main, oh, okay. So they're talking about basically cross stitching on top of it, on top of whatever you make, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do this for different effects, and for the most part, it looks pretty good. I personally don't do this. Maybe that will change if I make some dish rags with little people, like I don't know, like a snowman dish rag, for example, something like that. And then I'd want to put on a little mouth and eyes. And here's some decorative flowers. Okay, so we have a few different ones. That's pretty. A lot of these could be turned into granny squares too, which I think is kind of cool. All right, so here we have this interesting thing. It's a cord in single wide cord with surface crochet. That's interesting. And then we have, you know, ways to make other flowers and leaves and floral motifs like that. So I see there, and then professional finishing techniques. Oh, okay, how to sew seams. Basically how to join granny squares together, how to sew seams, how to make an object look seamless, or how to make an object look like it has seams, to make sure that, you know, because sometimes that's a design feature that you want your seam to show. And again, it is consistently showing both the US and the UK terms, which I think is really good. And joining circles together, blocks, etc. Here's a little granny square demonstration here. Making shapes fit together. Buttons and buttonholes. Yeah, that's another thing. I don't think I've ever actually seen in a book how to make a buttonhole, although I've seen it over and over on YouTube. But yeah, that's, you know, stuff like this is something that you don't think that you need an instruction for, but until you realize, man, I want to put a button there, then you're like, wait, how do I do that? And I mean, I guess that you can kind of figure it out on your own, but at the same time, it's really nice that they even have a sizing buttonhole size, you know, so that's cool. And then even how to make your own buttons, that's awesome. I've always seen buttons like this that, let me see if I can zoom in, because this is like so cool. I want you guys to see it really well. So I've seen buttons like this before, and I'm like, how do you make those? Those are so tiny and they're so cool. And I've always wanted to make them. So just for that alone, this is a really good book. I mean, I'm actually really impressed by what it does cover. But yeah, so we've got making your own buttons here. Let me zoom out just a little bit more. There we go. And sewing a button into place. It's important to know how to sew onto crochet, because I mean, if you don't sew, it's not as obvious as you might think. Oh, how to insert a zipper. See, that's also nice. And shaping. So I guess the professional touches are basically how to make your work even more, like how to add things to your work, design elements that I think most of us would like to add, but maybe we don't know how. And then how to make pockets. Pockets are cool. I like the double pocket, where you sew the pocket on, and then there's a pocket that you can put your hand into, and then you make a pocket on top of that. So there's actually two pockets. I like that. I don't know if I explained that very well or not. And then care and troubleshooting. Man, okay, so basically here's the deal. I am really impressed with this book, but I would not say that this book was named, I would not say that this book is named accurately. I think that this would be the best name for it would be something more like Ultimate Beginner's Crochet Companion Book. In that this includes a lot of stuff that beginners would like to know, but it's also stuff that even an advanced crocheter can benefit from. just knowing how to add buttons, for example, knowing how to make certain edges, knowing how to read a mesh pattern, for example. So it's got some really, really good content in it. It also covers both the US and the UK terms, which I think is a really important thing to know, especially if you're going to be learning a lot on YouTube, because there are both US and UK hosts. And while I notice that the people in the UK tend to include US terms, I even know I don't use UK terms to help people translate. So maybe that's something I should be more mindful of. I would say that this book is definitely worth it if you are a beginner, or if you want to know any of those kinds of things that we flipped through and we talked about. If you want this book because you want more stitch patterns, and you want to figure out, you want to add to as many stitches as you possibly can, I would say go ahead and pass on this. This is not the book to teach you new stitches. This is a book to teach you how to do the basics in crochet, and then like just skills that most crocheters will need as they go on their crochet journey. I hope I have made this video interesting. I didn't mean for it to go on so long, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I want to remind everybody that I do have a giveaway going on right now, so make sure you check that out and be sure to watch it to the end so you can enter. Thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and give this a thumbs up and leave a comment if you feel moved to. It certainly helps me a lot. And if this is your first time here, I love to crochet. I teach crochet tutorials, stitch tutorials. I share some of my works in progress every so often. I do mystery box unboxings and all sorts of different kinds of fun stuff here. So I would love it if you'd like to subscribe. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next video.